as I said, I've been doing this, and by this I mean I've got a career both as a musician, but and other things in a way. I've done everything from present shows on the BBC Radio, those kind of places, through to make time-based installations in museums and galleries. A lot and lot of collaborations with visual artists, contemporary dance companies. I work now with 75 different dance companies, writing soundtracks for them, which is a great way of presenting work because it means you reach an audience who'd never otherwise hear what you do. And it kind of opens out into a very different world. And for a long time, that's how I made a living, writing music largely for dance companies. Also, those shows tend to tour. So then you get paid for every performance, which is quite nice. So you've kind of done your work and you get a fee, and then it performs somewhere else and you get maybe £50, £75, 200, but they all add up after a while. Then you can buy a yacht and say, screw all this, music, art stuff. I just live on my yacht. Hasn't quite worked quite like that. But if I can have the yacht back at some point, Matt, that would be great. Yeah, you've been using it far too much. It's a bit frustrating. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, quite. So I've been able to make a living by what I've done is diversify. Is really, really important in what one does in life in a way. Certainly for my career, it means trying to describe what I do has been quite difficult to say I do this thing or that thing in a way. So if I just think in terms of the last few months, I'm currently working on a very large museum project in London, 40-speaker surround piece. At the same time, I've just produced two women in London have this group, and it's an amazing group, and I said I could remix them, and I did production work for their record, and I'm so proud of it. It sounds fantastic. So it's kind of singer-songwriter stuff.
Is that more traditional music? Or are you
but it's still a bit wonky. It's still a bit, it's a bit kind of odd, I mean, you probably understand yourself. Ultimately, why do you choose to listen to a certain artist at home? Why would you choose to listen to this one over that one? What is it that appeals? And most often it is they have a sonic voice that appeals to you, the same way you watch movies sometimes by the same director, because you like the way they have this vision. And one of the trickiest things to find, in a sense, is your voice. It's not like you wake up one day and go, today I'm going to be mixing these kind of sounds and that will forever be who I am. What I've done over my career is take lots and lots of risks and said yes to situations where I don't know what to do, where I feel sick in my tummy, that kind of moment. And I've said no to things that I know are really easy to do, such as, do you want to come and play a concert? Often I say no because it's not so rewarding. I'll say no to commercial projects such as ads, which I've done in the past for Nike or whoever, because it's personally not very rewarding. My bank account might enjoy it more than I do, but it's not fun. It's not joyful in a way. Not that we get to choose everything in our lives that can be joyful, but you need to find a place where you can actually genuinely look forward to doing something. One of the best pieces of advice I can give sometimes is no matter what you work on in your life, is you want to look at that in 10, 15, 20, 30 years and go, I really enjoyed that. The thing you don't want to do is somebody comes to you and say, hey, so-and-so, would you like to write the soundtrack to this ad? And you do it, and you have a terrible experience. And every time you see that ad on TV or on the radio, you go, that was a nightmare. Oh, I feel sick. And it's forever there. You kind of, if you can, to try and avoid that in a way, What you want to do is be able to look back at any situation, and sometimes it helps you in making a decision about working on something future in your careers, because you think, is that something I'm really going to be proud of in future years? Or will I feel like I really cheated myself in a way, and that wasn't me? It's really good to try and be honest with yourself. I'm talking to you as somebody with experience who's also gone through lots of really shitty experiences, and been ripped off terribly and had awful things. I was telling Matt at lunch the story, the largest amount of money I've ever earned. So I wrote a soundtrack to a musical in Paris. Very big hit. Johnny Depp came along to the premiere. All these French pop stars came along. I felt like a hero. I felt like such a superstar. I'm standing there shaking hands with all these people. It's a wonderful experience. And then I learned what I got paid for it. So every night it was performed, I got €1,000. And it performed for 1.5 years. So you start to do the maths in your head. You're sitting at home, like there I was in my flat in London, thinking, this week, with the matinees and the evening performances, I earned €7,000, which is about £5,000. As the month goes by, you think, well, I've just earned £20,000. This is mad. And as the year go by, you think, that yacht. No. But seriously, you think, wow, there's really an opportunity here to I'm actually going to earn some real money. And then the company went bankrupt. I got a statement that said, Robin, you are owed €500,000. And I was just ecstatic, just a printed statement in the days when Real Post came. I thought, yes, this is the reward. And then I learned I wasn't going to get a penny because they went bankrupt and took all the money with them. So you know about things like the PRS Society, these kind of things, MCPS, they're fantastic. In France and every country, they have equivalents. In France, they have the SACD, who collect money from these kind of organisations. But the theatre I learned at had never paid a penny to them. So they had the statement for the earnings, but they didn't have the earnings to give me, the musical artist, the money. So I got a lawyer in London to try and claim some of that back. And it cost me about £6,000, at which point the lawyer said, just forget it. You really have to just accept you're never going to get this money. The worst thing is then the company set themselves up with a new name and did a new production, just carried on, because that's what happens in business, It makes for a good story. Yes, for a short time, it was very depressing, really thinking, wow, this is great. This will have me, I can pay for my flat. I can do all the things you want to do, but it didn't happen. But the lesson to learn there is to make that decision. You read this if you read producers, you read it in interviews. You have to make a decision whether you're going to get paid for this work now or whether you're going to get what they call points on it later on. Royalties are quite different in theatres and everything, but often there's a decision to make. I've produced a number of bands over the years. Do you get paid £10,000 now and then get loads of money in the future if that record's a success? Or do you get £100,000 now and that record is a disaster, but at least you got £100,000? It's a thing that producers go through and engineers and so on all their lives often, trying to make that decision. And it's a tricky one, but money is a dirty subject, but I'm quite happy to talk about it, really, because it's brutal, but it affects all of us making decisions every single day. You look at this, this is quite expensive. You don't need to have one of these to make these strange, awful noises. You can do it with software. You can use free software. There's VCV Rack and all manner of things that allow you to emulate most of the things I've got there or here. I'm old-fashioned. I like real knobs, physical movement, gestures, this kind of thing. I like a relationship with what you might call an instrument, whatever that may be in these terms of whatever one uses.